So, okay, I decided to terrorize you with my terrible English accent. Uh, and yeah, it works. Microsoft, great. So basically, this last episode of my series of lectures is about game design, and this time it's about mostly funny stories from the development. So I will start with, the slides are in Czech, by the way. Originally I planned to speak in Czech, so those who have problems to understand should have it much easier, because they are literally what I'm going to tell you most of the time. So first of all, I would like to tell you some funny stories from the development of our game. Then illustrate how we epically failed during developing one of the features. Then I will show you, it seems that it works on the surface, our design writing tool. And then I will tell something about writing the screenplay for open world game, which is terrible. Those who haven't seen the previous presentations can look on the YouTube, because they are recording this, and you can find previous 2 episodes on YouTube. At least one has English subtitles, I guess, made by the fans, and I thank you for that. Then I wrote 2 quite long articles on game design in a sadly only Czech book, Games Industry 2 and 3, I guess. And well, it's this old slide, so it's already released. So, and then we will have follow-up lectures from Victor, who is here, our lead designer, tomorrow on AI and scripting, and one of our artists about lighting of our game. So if you want, you can look at them as well. So basically, all I'm going to talk about is just work in progress. The game is still very not finished, and so we are learning during the process, and we are looking for a way how to develop the game, because nobody, I dare to say that nobody developed such a game before. So there are a lot of issues and troubles we need to overcome, and I am looking forward to commentaries that always follow after these lectures, how amateurs we are. First statement that I very often repeat to my colleagues when they say that everything's wrong and doom is coming and we are going to fail, is that games are not manufactured, they are developed, or it's research and development. What? Somebody's probably stepping on the cable, I guess, or yeah, there is a very, very long cable leading from here to the projector, and somebody's probably stepping on it, I guess. So this is something I say very often in our office, that there are very often problems. There always are, and it's good to avoid them first, but if it's inevitable that they will appear sometime during the process. So now I'm going to share several problems that I experienced during my career, and let's start with one that happened just now. Well, we are developing a quest called Prisoned Bandit, or Imprisoned Bandit. Basically, the quest seems very simple. There is going to be a bandit that was captured by the villagers, and he is imprisoned in a cottage. Said designers. The response is, what the fuck? How is he going to appear there? And we said, like, well, we will place him when the quest starts. And the programmers no fucking way, it's a simulation. So then we are like, how should we do it? This is the game. We need to place people in some locations when quest starts. And they are like, well, he will born at the beginning of the game, like really seriously. And then he will live through the game, and somebody needs to capture him and bring him to the cottage. And then we are like, have you noticed that we are developing a game? The AI programmers are going to be very angry at me because of that, and well, it's some kind of overstatement, so their AI is great and all that, but there was some kind of misunderstanding between me and them when we said that we want to have really solid simulation on the background of the game, so every NPC will have its daily routines and such things. And then we haven't talked that much to them about that we will also need some scripted faked events happening. And it was at the beginning when this happened, it was kind of a surprise for them because they were so into this simulation thing that they forgot that there are also some other parts of game. And we solved this already, but it was kind of something I really haven't expected. And it happened to me previously with other game I worked on. This is basically bad car episode. So we were testing one of the missions in Mafia 1. And what happened is that there is a mission where you are followed by your sidekick and you are going to basically rob a bank. And first you need to go there and look into the bank, how it works, and kind of research how you're doing the robbery. And I wanted to use the railroads that we have in the game, so they were usable. So we forced the player to use the train to go to the bank. And he was followed by the sidekick, and they were talking and stuff. And I was walking, he was behind me, and suddenly he was hit by a car. So, and he took his baseball bat and started to beat the car. And I was like, what? And so I went to the programmer who was working on the AI. I was like, so, well, this funny thing happened to me, so what is it? And he was like, it's perfectly okay because he get angry at the car. And I was like, what the fuck? And he was like, the car attacked the guy, and so he get angry at the car. And I was like, well, have you realized that car isn't a human, so it doesn't have any emotions, and it can't get, like, it's kind of stupid to get angry at the car. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And he was like, so can we please force the guy to follow me even if he's hit by a car? And he's like, no, it's not possible, it's a simulation. And from that moment, all the scripters on the game never, were totally against using AI in their games, and they wanted to script everything because they were afraid that something like this will happen again, and they haven't realized that we can somehow torture the programmer or something to force him not to program the AI this way. So on the next game, I have a big problems with that there were basically no AI because nobody wanted to have AI in the game because when you script it, you have a 100% control over it. So also kind of bizarre moment. This next story is about time. The title is a part of popular Czech song. And I am unable to translate it. But basically, in our game, we have a time running in the background. Day time changes, there is weather changes, and all that. And NPCs are kind of acting on, like, depending on the time. So they sleep at night and they work during the day. But the thing is that we don't want to have one-to-one time in the game. So currently, the 1 day in game lasts like 48 minutes in the game. And so everything's faster. And we thought that it's going to be perfectly okay. So NPCs have daily life cycles. So a peasant wakes up in the morning and goes to the fields to work on them. That's perfectly understandable. At noon, he goes back to his home to have a lunch, let's say. So we did this, we executed the game. The peasant went to the fields, and in the middle of the road, he realized that it's midnight, and he returned home during the night, and it seemed that we did something wrong. What we did wrong is actually we shortened the time, but we haven't shortened the space. So basically, what takes you 10 minutes to go to the fields, it lasted 10 minutes in the game, but 10 minutes were 4 hours. And so either we could do that we will make everything very close, or we can make the day longer, or we have to cheat in some other way. I will talk about this later. This is another funny story, our branching dialogue system, which is awesome, or it was awesome until we implemented some new features. But basically, it works like in any other game. You click on the NPC, and there is camera changes to third person and looks at the NPC and at you. You start it, and it waits for your response. So if you don't select any part of sentence, nothing happens, and you can go and basically it pauses the game, and you can go make yourself a coffee. And the NPC dies because you are out of the keyboard for half an hour, and 3 days happen during the game, and he dies of hunger or something. So the easy, first thing that comes to your mind is, let's pause the time during the dialogues. It's going to be okay. And what happens is that all the NPCs that are moving in the background suddenly freeze. We need to have something moving in the background because it could happen anywhere. There might be anyone in the background. So he should do something at least. So we created 2 different times. One is in-game time, which means that when NPC starts to do something, he continues to do it independent. The NPC will not stop doing it before we tell him that it's different hour. So, and during the in-game time, we don't change the hours. So basically, it's 1 o'clock for as long as we want to. And then we can switch to the real time or world time, where the hours start to change, and the NPC starts to change his behavior depending on which time is it. So we did this, and what happened is that all the NPCs went away from the scene and never returned back because they started doing something else somewhere else, and nobody told them to go back in the world because it's told to them in the world time. So the scene was completely empty, and when the dialogue ends, there is no one in the city because everyone left. So we started to tell them that, give them some procedure to do something on the point where they are. But what happened is that they started to move around the player and push him away from the dialogue. So basically, you can see it in the alpha if you are lucky, and it's not that hard to be lucky, that you start to talk with someone, somebody goes around you and he pushes you, and then he moves with you to the other part of the village, either you or the NPC, and it kind of breaks the narrative or immersion. So we decide another solution. So let's make the player rock solid, unpushable object. And then they start to do a gangbang in the background because everybody gets stuck on you, and it's also not something that, and seriously, I still don't know what to do with it. It's really, I wrote to the Witcher guys how they do it, and they haven't responded yet. But it's really a big problem. Like most of the games, the reason is that most of the games before us, the world is not that deeply simulated as our world. So the problem is not that hard. You can kind of easily cheat. But in this case, when the simulation is really a simulation to a large extent, it's quite hard to fake what the NPCs are doing because it will break the script somewhere else. So if we force someone stop doing something, there might be people that are interacting with this character and their process will stop as well. So it's kind of very hard problem that we predicted it will happen, but we were like, okay, we will solve it somehow, and we didn't so far. This is another funny, like this thing is quite terrible in the alpha version we released, and basically it happens because we've changed something in our pathfinding and animation system, like just few hours before we released the alpha. It made the alpha much better on our work build. But when we compiled the master build, and I am going to apologize for programmers if I'm saying something wrong, but basically I can say roughly that when we compiled the master build, the game started to behave differently than it acted before. The master build was suddenly different than the working build we use, and nobody knows why. And I thought that it's just some like small problem that somebody screwed something up, and so far it took like 2 weeks to repair this. It's really not easy to fix this. It was much deeper, and it haven't showed up before, so it was really new, and it also doesn't happen all the time. So it's like when we played the alpha, it never happened. On the PC we played it, so we released it, and suddenly, I don't know, one third of the people started to have this problem of witches flying in the air and people doing weird stuff on weird places. Another thing is that is purely design question is that, well, in a game with a real time, you tend to use the time. So basically NPC can tell you, let's meet in the evening by the church. And the problem is that it might be just 1 minute before the evening, and it could be far away from the church. So the NPC, like, that's the problem I talked about before. The NPC will not make it in the 1 minute to the place. And player can go there, and there is not going to be any NPC to meet. So, well, one solution is to make it some other time, like tomorrow. So let's meet tomorrow by the church. So the NPC tells you, let's meet tomorrow, and you will make objective that says, let's meet tomorrow. But tomorrow, it's an obsolete objective, so you need to have 2 objectives. Let's meet tomorrow, and, well, today is tomorrow, so let's meet. And it's kind of not very, well, we don't want to have several objectives on one task, so we decided that it's something that we need to solve some other way. So basically, and then there is another problem. If the player doesn't go to the church in the evening, should it repeat itself the other evening, or is it a once in a lifetime opportunity, which would probably cause that nobody would ever play any of the quests because everybody would probably miss the right time. If you played Dead Rising, first Dead Rising, this was the case that you kind of missed half of the quest because you were somewhere else, and suddenly it told you like, yeah, you just missed the quest because you should be there at 6 and it's 6:01. So that's something we wanted to avoid. So we decided that when somebody says let's meet in the evening, it means every evening. only in the cases where it's really time-limited event, it's like, let's meet today at some given time, and it will never appear, and we will tell it, the player, explicitly that it's once in a lifetime opportunity. But basically, the initial problem still remains. What if it's already very close to the hour that you are supposed to meet the character? So basically, we must count how long will it take NPC to move from location where he is right now to location where they are supposed to meet. And this time is going to be kind of a no quest given period where the quest is either not given or when the NPC tells you that it's going to happen the next day, and from that time it will happen every evening. So very like simple problem and quite complicated solution where you have to do it in every single quest, sometimes more than once in one quest. And then we can switch to the feature that's going to appear in our upcoming update to the alpha, where we hopefully will fix the problems that are there right now. So the initial idea was like, let's make the awesome minigame where you will actually really do stuff with alchemy. So and it's very simple. You just click on the stuff and you will use it on some other stuff just by clicking the mouse or selecting it with your joypad. It's going to be very simple, and we only need a lab, few objects, and some recipes and ingredients. It should look something like this. Basically, you will, if you want to pick up something you need, you just click on it, the player picks it up, and then there is an option to use it somewhere else. The spots are predefined. On the first thought, it feels very simple. And in the end, the few ingredients were 246. I guess if you count even the cooking things like different kinds, like stuff for cooking, basically. And so everybody was like, you guys are fucking crazy because we will never gonna like make those so many things. There's a lot of objects. You need to simplify it. So in the end, we simplified from 200 plus objects to 16. And I was angry. I hated that it's so few. And anyway, each ingredient must have several models, properties, and all that stuff. And even with 16 ingredients for alchemy, it's lots of combinations for the animations, because you can combine all the stuff with each other. You are using each ingredient in several different places in the lab. So there is a unique animation for each place, sometime with different ingredients. Also, the initial idea was that you will see the ingredients on the table. In the end, that was my brilliant idea to put them in small bags with the icon on them. So we don't need to do every single herb as the 3D model just for the alchemy, because then we will need to have different versions of pick or holding animation or pose for the hand for every different herb, because the herbs looks differently. And if you like, animating the hands is not an easy task for lots of objects and manipulating with them. So basically you just grab something in your fist, and when it's not visible, you throw it in the how to say it, pan or pot, yeah. So that was much better. But as I said, a lot of combinations for animators, and they didn't like it. So in the end, we have about that many ingredients. And the guy who wrote the whole minigame under my command is still thinking that it's too complicated, that there is so many combinations that nobody will understand it. And basically then you need to write all those things for every recipe must be actually a recipe. You need to make, well, in our system, it's theoretically possible to create something by accident. So every combination should produce something. So it's not like you need to put these things in a given order. But if you do something else that is in the recipe, that something still can come out of it. So basically, we have recipes, but there is a system behind it. Every recipe have some, every ingredients have some properties, and basically this is the minigame created in Excel. So you select some ingredients. There is some processes that you can do with them, and some order in which can they be used, and it produces some results. It produces an object that has some properties. It gives to the player some buffs. It works. Basically, the minigame can be played in Excel. Our biggest achievement in Excel was that we created blacksmithing minigame that could be controlled by Xbox controller. You can play game in Excel with Xbox controller. And it even had some, well, it wasn't pixel art, it was pixel cell or cell art graphics. So there was a kind of like sword made out of cells. So we made such prototype for the game. Then, well, as I said, each ingredient must have several models. Like if you have a herb, you need to have the herb model in the fields or in the forest. So 3D model for the herb. Then you need to have an icon. You need to have at least the back in which it will appear in the alchemy minigame. There must be a drop model. If you drop the herb, it looks differently than when you collect it. You need to have a picture for the herb in your recipe book. It needs to have some information in the book. It needs to have some properties. So it's a lot of stuff that needs to be very well thought out in the design before it works. And then you need to tweak the recipes, the actual results of the minigame, so it kind of makes sense that the buffs it gives to the player are okay and all that stuff. Basically, I said all this. And then, after we kind of finally designed and prototyped everything, and it started to work, and after like a lot of time they spent animating, our camera started to kind of run out of the head of the player, so you can see his eyes in front of the camera and stuff, something like in the picture before. And suddenly, like, there was a design that you will be able to list through the book, and they were like, nobody said that when you said list, it really meant list. So it's just like flipping the pages without any animation, which wasn't the goal. And I thought that it's quite obvious if there is a book and you are going to flip the pages, there's going to be animation, but it wasn't specifically mentioned in the design. So it's just fade in, fade out, and it's not possible. It's a realistic game. And then most of the time it's like, this wasn't in the design, and now you want it, and it's a change, and we need to do it over again. And it's, of course, it may be my fault as a designer that I haven't realized something that people will not understand. So basically, in the end, what happened is that original plan was that like 4, I don't know, maybe 5 people would be working on the minigame for a month. In the end, after 2 months later, it was in alpha stage. So we said, okay, it's playable, let's give it a break, and we will return to this later, which is now, because we want to release it during the alpha. And it kind of broke our original plan, because since we were working, those 5 people were working on the minigame, they were not able to work on something else, which was a problem, obviously. So that was another issue that we are facing when developing the game. Now let's tell something about actual writing or game designing. when you want to write a non-linear game, even linear game, you will realize that Word isn't the perfect tool to do it. It's a great tool, but it has a lot of limitation when you want to create something that people don't do in classic narratives, let's say. So previously, for making my previous games, I used a program called Movie Magic Screenwriter, which is used for writing movie scripts. And since the games were mostly linear, it wasn't a big problem to use it. There were some issues where you want to have several solutions. There are some issues because those programs are usually very limited in terms of formatting. So it's just basically only, not Arial, the other font. Well, the typewriter font and different sizes of like capital letters and normal letters, and that's it. But it's totally awkward to write nonlinear dialogues in it. So, and there is nothing for writing easy writing of nonlinear dialogues. There is a program called ChatMapper that is ideal, basically, to write nonlinear dialogues, but you can't write anything else in it. So you need to write the rest of the design as well. You need to explain the action, locations, a lot of notes. And ChatMapper is also very slow. You need to click all the time on different boxes, and it's not very good for writing. The writing tool must be fast, simple. It should not interrupt your thinking by kind of wanting you, like asking you for too much interaction with it. So we decided, I was thinking, and there was this brilliant idea that came to my head that I realized that I found a way how to write nonlinear dialogues in kind of classic, easy, fast way. And it's going to be very easy to program this tool, and it's going to be done in 3 months. And I call it Skald, which is Norwegian or Scandinavian bard, basically. And it should have been a very simple program, similar to Movie Magic Screenwriter or Celtics, which is a free screenwriting tool, mostly for writing the action and branch dialogues. And this is my original mock-up of how it should look. A list of the scenes, a scene with different types of text, possibility to create characters and format the dialogues as actors are used to read them, and some properties for things you create. I designed it in a way the office is designed because I like the design, and somebody told me, the programmer who was assigned to do it, told me that it could be done in a half year or something. Well, so after 2 years and 3 programmers who worked on it, this is what we have right now. It doesn't look that good as Office, but it actually works. And I'm going to, if I'm lucky, I'm going to show it to you now, because it's really great. And I want to show you how we use it. So, well, let's before explain what it actually should do first. So basically, the goal is that it looks like classic linear tool for writing screenplays. Screenplays have quite, well, really rigid format that is used by every screenwriter. Actors are used to read it the way it's written, like they like how it's written. Everybody understands it. You can count how long the scene is depending just by the amount of pages and all that stuff. So basically, we wanted to develop something like this, which would be also, so you can write a movie in it, but also that will have extra features that will allow us to write nonlinear scenes and dialogues. Also, we wanted it to have a possibility to create items in our basic database for the game. So basically, you can use the tool to create an object for the game. It will be automatically exported to the database, and the scripter can basically will see the object in game, in the engine, and can use the properties of this object. It will also create characters, NPCs. You can assign them properties and all that stuff. You can write objectives and saves. The objectives will have properties. So, for example, the property of the objective could be quest log message. So you don't have to write quest log text somewhere else. As I said, it's connected directly to our game database, and it also should have, and it has the possibility to play the dialogue you write in the tool directly in the game. So currently, if somebody writes a dialogue, he can play the branching dialogue in the game, which is awesome, because reading branching dialogues is really terrible, especially when they are long and complicated. And in the end, and this is not the original tool I had in mind when when I was thinking that we are going to program it in few months, because as designers started to use it, they started to have more and more demands, what features it could have, and we were like, okay, it would be great and all that stuff. And basically, it's now a very robust tool, which is also very buggy because of all the robustness. But basically, ideally, and we are using it currently, it should be possible to write the whole game in it. So you don't have to use any other tool like Word or Excel. And also it enables us to show the scheme of the nonlinear scenes and dialogues. So let's try the demo now, if it works. So basically this is it, and if you are a fast reader, this is one of the quests we are working on right now. So I am kind of leaking our design document right now. But you can see there are several different types of text. We have a game scenes which explain gameplay. We have scenes, you can see up here, which are for cutscenes. Each type of scene or text has different style, so it's easy to kind of, for designer, he's able to see quickly what if it's something that interests him. For animator, he's interested only in cutscenes. You can hide stuff that you don't like. You can see that there are properties on the right where you can fill different options. So basically for every part of the explanation of action, I can set which type of gameplay is it, and how long it takes, or if it's time limit gameplay, or if the time pauses during it, or if it's unlimited game time, which lets us then analyze the core content of the quest, if it's action-based or if it's just adventuring. We can analyze if we are not using something too much or not enough. Then we have here you can see a linear dialogue, and now we have boxes for branching dialogues. You can see they are connected. It works kind of internet message board or something. You can as well hide parts of the dialogue, some branches. You can create unlimited amount of branches. You can directly jump into some scenes, and then there is a database of the characters, which is empty, I guess, right now because it's offline. It's usually online, connected to our in-game database. This is just an XML exported from the game. I can display like visually the structure of the branching dialogues, so you can see it's quite complicated. We can directly give some how do you say it? Well, conditions in which the given dialogue could be executed. So if you have, like, if your strength is something, you can use this option to threaten the character and such things. So this is quite interesting. Next step should be that you can move the boxes. Currently, it's not possible. Also, no. Also, you can visualize the quest, the structure of the quest. So you can see this one is quite simple. It always returns, there are options, but they always return to the result is usually the same, or the next part of the quest is usually not affected that much by the previous part, but you can have different like the stats or the reputation of something can change. So it's not it has some purpose. It's not that unimportant. So basically, this is something we are using. I realized that a lot of other companies have something similar as well. Ubisoft has a similar writing tool. It works in online, so several people can work on a lot of different documents for the game. Each document is separate entry in the database, but to be honest, currently in the stage it is, we are using it, we are writing in it. Designers hate it because, and they really do, because it stopped crashing lately that often, but sometimes the structure of the dialogue is so complicated that when you save it and it loads differently than you saved it, because mostly it was their fault that they wrote it wrong, but they don't want to admit it. But basically, there is a lot of advantages. It works with our database, you can create stuff, you can write branching dialogues, you can visualize them, you can export the dialogues directly into the game, but also there's a lot of disadvantages. We need to develop it ourselves, so it takes a lot of time for us, it's extra effort. But currently I would say that still the development was cheaper than buying a dedicated tool for writing. There is, for example, Navigo, which is awesome tool, but it's very expensive. It costs several €100 per license, per user. So if we bought this tool for everyone in the company, which would be necessary because everyone uses design document, it would be thousands of euros. And so far, I think that we haven't spent that much on the programmers yet. Also, currently, it's not possible to do reviews. So if somebody writes something and I want to change it, he doesn't see the changes. So he can't learn from what I did. He couldn't see the difference between his dialogue and mine dialogue, and he couldn't learn what's better in mine. And backups are also very complicated, and of course bugs. It's getting better, but there is still a lot of bugs and unfinished features. So for example, the database thing is still not implemented fully. It should be next week, hopefully. So we are still using Word for some parts of the design because we can do it in our own tool. But by the way, if it goes right sometime in the future, we would like to release it publicly for a lot of money. Because I don't think that there is a such tool, and I think that a lot of people would appreciate such tools. So there is no reason why to keep it for just for ourselves. So if we are able to finish it properly, we would like to release it as well. Now, quickly, because I was told that they are going to vyhodí nás. They are going, jak se řekne vyhodit prostě? They will kick us out, yeah, in a few minutes. So, writing a screenplay for a long, non-linear game is pain in the ass. And you need a lot of writers, a lot of scripters, and it's non-linear, which is always a problem. And there is running time, which is also a problem. So basically, you don't create a classic narrative, but you create kind of series of opportunities for the player that by the actions of the player connect together and create a story. But each opportunity or scene could be also played in many different ways. So basically you don't create one story, you create a lot of stories at any given moment, and by playing the game, if it's really non-linear, you can play it, I don't know, in tens of different ways, and you can create tens of different experiences. So it's a lot more work than if you wrote just one linear story. So we have a writer's room. It's 7 of us writing the story. Everyone writes differently, so there's a lot of problems with the review process because we need to fix the dialogues so they look like one person wrote them, which is a problem. There are conflicts in the design, so somebody may use some character differently than someone else, so we could end up with a guy who is nice and ugly at the same time, and we need to fix it. And the review process is pain in the ass as well, because I am supposed to be reviewing the process, but I'm also doing a lot of other stuff. And 6 people can write a lot of text in a week. So every week there is 100 pages that I need to write down, read and kind of correct if it's wrong. And it's usually not as good as I would like it to be, so or as I imagine it to be, or not to be that like not to disrespect our designers. They are quite good, I would say. So there is a lot of problems, right? Just writing and reading the stuff and making it kind of ucelený, complete, or well, whatever. An open world, it doesn't work as we would like it to work. So basically, you're writing quests that the player will go to a mill and meet someone. Problem is that the guy is not going to be there because he's in the pub, someone killed him, he's stuck in the forest because somebody made poor collisions or something. And there must be a solution for most of these situations. And you can't, at the same time, easily organize a wow moment. So, for example, let's say that we would like to have a marriage happening in a village. So you arrive in the village, and there is a crowd of people like being happy at the just married couple, which is a problem because the time is running, and you can arrive at the village at any time. So basically, if you arrive during the night, it might be a problem because the marriage may not happen like at that time. So what happens if we need to trigger a quest when you arrive somewhere, but you arrive there at a different time? Also, immortality of or mortality of the NPCs could be a serious problem. Basically, if you can kill anyone, you can basically destroy the game the first minute you start to play it. You just see someone who is important character for completion of the game, and you kill him, and game over. Should we allow it and tell people, well, you just screwed the game, well, you can continue playing, but you can not finish it? Or should we prevent it, and a lot of people will be angry that there are some restrictions? We also need to limit the open world in many other ways, and the other thing is, will somebody recognize that there are some limits? Because I usually don't try to break games when I play them. So, for example, now I was playing Assassin's Creed Unity, and there was a crowd of people, somebody was talking to them, and I was like just curious, what happens if I kill the guy who talks to the people? And because it's a serious problem, because then they will be like, kind of, it will be ridiculous if they stand there, nothing happening. So I came on to the guy, and it was impossible to draw my sword at the place. So, well, it's basically non-interactive scene, it's just background, and I guess that 90% of people never realize that there is such restrictions. There are such restrictions. But do we want this to have it in our game? And children, terrible problem. Well, let's say that we don't want it to be possible to kill children in our game, but they have parents. And so, well, everybody has children, and if you kill the parents, the children becomes an orphan, and his life cycle is totally broken, because in the evening, mother puts him into bed and gives him food and all that stuff, and all of a sudden the kid is living in an empty house, and he dies or because of hunger or something. So do we want to have a children in our game at all? Because they are basically useless for the story, and the only thing they cause is problems, because we need to somehow fix all the issues that are connected with their life cycles, and it's a really big problem. And if, well, I guess in original Fallout it was possible to kill children, and it was like there was a perk for it. It was like I don't know how it was called, but it was possible. But those days, the social justice people were not that aggressive like today. And then I should finish, but then there's a problem that there's a lot of NPCs doing a lot of stuff in many different situations, and a lot of this stuff is repetitive. So many NPCs, for example, can greet you or can order beer at the bar, and so their dialogues kind of duplicate. So we were thinking how to get rid of those repetitive dialogues, because it's a lot more writing, a lot more complications. So right now we use, for these situations or occasions, we use roles and souls. Basically, a role is something that's multiple NPCs, including the player, can do. So ordering a beer. And soul is a unique NPC soul, on which we tie roles. So basically you create a Miller Johnny, who is a specific character, and his role is Miller Johnny, because one of his roles is Miller Johnny, and this role is quest-specific role, so it has all the dialogues used specifically only for this character in the quest. And then he could be a drinker, bar fighter, he can have a role for eating food and thank you and greetings and all the stuff. So every single NPC will have multiple roles. So we write it only once, and we can use it on several NPCs. And then it will be voiceovered as many times as necessary, because we know, okay, Miller Franta or Johnny is voiceovered by this actor, and this actor needs to do voiceovers for all these roles. And if his voice and his role is used on other NPC, we only need to do it once, which is great. But since there is like hundreds of roles and hundreds of souls, maybe thousands of roles, basically, it's a mess. It made life easier in one way, but much more complicated in other way. I can skip this. We have several different rules how to write dialogues, because, for example, we realize that if you kind of go to some NPC and tell him wanting to start a dialogue, you need to decide who speaks first, and it usually can't be NPC. If I'm going to look ridiculous to our designers if I said it wrong. But it should be player who speaks first, because then it would look weird if people started to react to you without you saying hi or something. But there is a role for saying hi. So when you are writing a dialogue, in the design document, you just basically write after the greeting, everything after the greeting, because greeting is a universal role. So it's kind of a little bit weird, because all the dialogues written in the quest seems kind of incomplete, for example. And then we have different reactions for how the player looks, how he's injured, and all that stuff that is not going to be told. And then one funny thing, when we started to develop the game, I was like, well, it's going to be a realistic game, and everyone was like, are you serious? Nobody will like it. Isn't it a little bit too much? A year later, everybody's like, this is not realistic. We should do it right. And last year, it was like, when I wanted something because it's better for the game, everybody started to call me heretic who is betraying our philosophy of everything being realistic. And this year I said, enough, it's going to be my way, I don't care. Because it really started to be crazy because we started to argue about sizes of the objects. So if I wanted the door to be bigger than they were in the real world, there were several people who were complaining that everybody will notice, and the Journal of History will write a bad review on our game because our doors are wrong, which will never happen, actually. Police is coming already, or I have only 8 slides left. By the way, this is great, this Microsoft. I have a remote on my phone because I have Windows phone and this is Windows device and so design. When we're writing design, first features, like game mechanic features, originally it starts with the design. So I or someone else says, okay, we would like to have something behave this way, and the responses and reactions to it and should be this, and there are supposed to be some mechanisms in the background. Then we should do technical design, which is something we kind of skipped on many occasions because Victor didn't have time to do it. And so we kind of said we will do it later. But then suddenly it came time to implement this feature. So we kind of let it slide, do it, and if you have some problems, ask. And then we realized that it caused a shitstorm, basically, because people never ask, and they do the simplest version of what they think they are supposed to do. And so then we write the technical design, and then there's another shitstorm because the technical design was wrong because we forgot about something that was important. So then we make a prototype first, which was supposed to be the third thing in the list. And then there is an alpha version, which kind of works, and we are all happy that, oh, finally it works. But there are a few things that needs to be finished, and usually those few things take about the same amount of time it took us to get to this point. So when you think you have 90% done, usually you have 90% left to be done when you try to fix all the small problems that arrive. So for example, in my design, it was quite longer than this, but I wrote that I want every weapon to give some damage, and there will be different types of attacks, like we have 3 types of attacks, and so it will be different damage for each type, and also the weapons will get damaged with every attack, which is it's easy. This is just very small part of the design document that Victor had to do to explain this to the programmers in a way they expect us to tell them. Some of the parts of this text are quite scary to me. The mathematic parts. I don't know what it is. Basically, maybe I can understand the graph. And we should have something like this for every single feature that includes some counting, physics, mathematics, numbers. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and then it's a problem. And also, not everything's possible. So, for example, well, as I explained, the marriage is a very good example. When we wrote it, the programmers were like, "Whoa, what?" And then, like we were like we really need to do it, but they were like, what happens if player comes there in wrong time, or you killed most of the villagers, so there will be like 2 people on the marriage, or a lot of issues. But the biggest problem is that every single character that you want to, even if you arrive at the ideal time and everybody's alive, normally those people would be working somewhere, drinking in the pub. They could be several kilometers away from the village, and just because you arrive there, there is a moment we need to say to them, go to the marriage, now. And you need to teleport them. But when you do it, everything they were doing at the moment gets broken, basically. So if they were interacting with someone, the other character will suddenly be like, oh, where are you? Like, and also you need to have a place where you teleport them. So, and there might be some other people on this place because they are walking around. So there is a square, there is 100 sheep just because they are returning to the farm right now. And suddenly you teleport 100 people who should look at somebody is marrying someone. And it's not a good thing to mix sheep with people in a limited space. So that's something you need to solve. And I was lucky, I was talking with the Witcher guys, Witcher designers, and they share the same problems. Well, and they came up with the same solution as we do, that there must be a cutscene. So you do a fade out, you organize everything, you delete everything that's not supposed to be there, you solve all the issues, you do fade in, you do a cutscene that there are people, then the marriage could happen, then you do fade out, fade in, and the sheep can be back or something. And this is inevitable solution because you simply need to do it this way. There's no other way how to do it, basically. 5 slides and 1 is thank you. So development of the game is unpredictable sometimes. It's good to predict the unpredictable stuff, or at least count with it. And it's not always your fault where something goes wrong. I would like to avoid those situations as often as possible, but sometimes it's just inevitable that this will happen because development is not production. It's not like making cars or shoes where you know exactly how long will it take to produce this part of your product. The game is not a product, it's a, let's say, piece of art, some games at least, and when these things happen, which is unpredictable, you need to solve them somehow, and you can't count with these. It just happens, and you need to react to it. So that's basically it. I am looking forward to the articles that our RPG is in big troubles, which will definitely happen, because I am totally incompetent designer. And all the commentaries are going to be awesome as always, I guess. So this is not staged, it really happened, I don't know why. So thank you. We may even have some time for questions.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Because we are really running late now, we have a time and space for 3 questions. So hopefully the first question will be intelligent. Já to vezmu tady od začátku.
Dobrý večer. Zvažovali jste při tom problému s tím časem, že při těch rozhovorech by byl reálný čas 1:1?
při něm.
Ano, při
I will
něm.
switch to Czech right now. No, to byla první věc, co jsme udělali a proto jsme začali dělat ty ostatní věci.
Já myslím, že by to mělo fungovat, protože oni budou, kde byli a po tom rozhovoru se pustí ten váš herní čas.
Ale co se třeba stane, když přijedou kumáni v průběhu toho rozhovoru a začnou vyvražďovat vesnici v pozadí? To je... Nebo někdo na začátku toho rozhovoru, než se spustil, vystřelil šíp po vás a byl dost daleko na to, aby jsme to nezdetekovali jakože hráče v souboji, takže se nemůže spustit rozhovor. A když se začne ten rozhovor, tak ten šíp přiletí a zabije hráče. To jsou jako věci, které opravdu se můžou stát, no. Takže je to fakt zvláštní. No, další asi teda.
Můžete krmit ty vesničany?
Ne, já teďka se snažím, nebo jako v zásadě doufám, jsme se dohodli, že ta simulace má svý jako hranice. Jako je super, že ta simulace tam je a fakt je jako super ta simulace, ale prostě z podstaty věci, tady sedí nějaký minimálně jeden programátor, co dělá to AIčko, asi mě zabije, až to skončí, ale já jsem to nemyslel nějak ofenzivně, teda v každopádně. Ta simulace má opravdu svý hranice a prostě jsou okamžiky, kdyby ta hra prostě nešla udělat, kdyby jsme tu simulaci prostě nevypli a nezačali prostě ty věci fejkovat prostě a jídlem si to... No, ještě je to no comment v zásadě, tady ta věc. Tak řekněme.
Poslední otázka.
Tak já se omlouvám, taky bych se chtěl zeptat k tomu času. Mě by strašně moc zajímalo, jaký jsou vlastně teda výhody toho, že ten čas není reálný a že neběží jedna ku jedný s realitou, protože krom toho teda, že během dobývání hradu vidím 3krát západ slunce. Jak mě...
No to právě máme vyřešený, to se právě spustí ten herní čas a to dobývání hradu může trvat jako teoreticky nekonečně dlouho, nebo původně jsem třeba myslel, a to je něco, co jsem jako, není jako něco, co mě překvapilo, když to nastalo, teda to, a jako ani Viktora, ani nikoho jiného. Prostě jsme věděli, že když třeba hráč vejde do obchodu a začne si tam někde vybírat v menu, tak v tom menu se ten čas prostě musí zastavit, protože jinak by uběhly 3 dny, než on si nakoupí. Nebo se někde prostě zastaví a něco začne jako si prostě hledat návod na internetu a mezi tím se setmí a někdo začne vyhazovat z toho krámu, protože prostě v tom krámu nemůže zůstat. A takovéhle věci. Takže a zase, když ten čas by byl real time, tak což třeba možná ve Witcherovi v zásadě tak je, že fakt jako ten den trvá strašně dlouho, tak potom je poněkud jako ta hra taková pomalá. Jakože někdo řekne, sejdeme se večer tamhle a hráč musí pořád dávat skip time, protože prostě by to musel by si vzít měsíc dovolenou, aby tu hru mohl dohrát, kdyby opravdu nechtěl používat skip time, což taky jako není úplně ideální, no.
OK, Dane, kdybyste měli na Dana další dotazy, on bude ještě okolo, pro teď mu zatleskejte, protože byl skvělej.